Am I watching a Lifetime movie right now? I don't want to say this as an insult, but if I didn't know any better, I would think this is a Colleen Hoover book. Like, what's going on? Literally, what is going on right now? Girl, get a restraining order on him. Like, you don't have to be in this predicament. At the end, I think he left the church to be with her. Again, why would you do that? He actually needs to go to rehab instead. The relationship between Ivy and Tate, nothing comes close to him. Now, let me tell you why. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ashley, and today I am going to be finally discussing all of the books that I read last year. I'm going to be rating them. I read 15 books last year. I know I'm late. I know 2023 is long gone. 2024 is basically almost over, but I don't care. I'm still gonna rate everything that I read, and I hope you guys enjoy because, oh my gosh, some of these books, y'all, some of these books drove me absolutely mad, and some of them I fell in love with. I'm gonna be testing out this new mic, so if it works, enjoy the quality, and if it doesn't work, just ignore it and just listen to the audio from my camera, okay? So first we're gonna start with the ones that I really enjoyed the most. First we're gonna start with The Final Offer by Lauren Asher. I gave this book a 4.2 stars out of 5. I absolutely did not expect to love this book as much as I did. I love the Dreamland Billionaires series. Declan is still the love of my life, but Callahan shocked me in a way that I didn't even expect to like. It is kind of a second chance romance, friends to lovers type deal. This book is the definition of slow burn. So, I mean, if you like that, great. But me, I was a little bit hesitant to get into it because look how thick this book is. Look how thick this book is. Okay, that should tell you enough. Around page 300, 340, between those areas, that's when this book really gets going. That's when this book really shows you what it's talking about, okay? Callahan is kind of the screw-up brother. He dealt with some, substance abuse issues, and because of that, it kind of caused him and Alana to have a rift in the relationship. But I want to get into my Goodreads review. If you want to follow me on Goodreads, I'll put it right there. I said this book really won me over in the second half. It was so refreshing to see a Kane brother, Callahan Kane, that was an actual human being and knew how to express his emotions and feelings and was aware of all of that compared to his other two brothers, I love seeing him constantly take blows and hits to his character like a champ, because that's one thing this book did. They were gonna remind you that Callahan, you're not just gonna walk in and swoop the day again and let bygones be bygones, He really had to work to gain the respect and trust of Alana again, which one thing about me is if he's gonna grovel and beg and just take hits and blows to his character, I gotta respect it. You gotta respect the character like that. Alana, on the other hand, she was cool for the most part. I liked her, but she would be really annoying for me whenever she would be like, oh my gosh, I can't take him back. I can't go there. Or how can my heart forgive him? Then I knew 4 chapters later, they would be going at it like rabbits. And I was like, girl, save the theatrics and the dramatic monologue for someone else because I'm not falling for it. I don't know who else was falling for it, but it wasn't me. And the last thing I want to say about this book is the romantic aspects. One thing I really liked about it is how intimate the scenes were, because every time they were together, he was acting as if it was gonna be their last time together, which is just oh my gosh, Callahan, the man that you are. And then another thing in this book, we saw Declan and Iris again. I just love any chance we get to see. That's the best thing about this whole entire series is that the cameos we get of Declan and Iris, because oh my gosh, I could have cried. When I saw them on the page again, I was screaming oh my gosh, they're back. We are so back. Declan is still my favorite Kane brother. Callahan is a very close second. Rowan, we don't talk about Rowan. We don't talk about Bruno. But yeah, that is The Final Offer. My next absolute favorite read of 2023 was Ivy. Now, this was just a random book I found off of Goodreads. I think I saw something along the lines of, it was giving Pretty Little Liars, Gossip Girl, Dark Academia, Pretty Little Liars. And I'm like, wait a minute. I'm interested. Oh my gosh, when I tell y'all this book, I literally gave it a 5 out of 5. Oops, I'm just kidding. I'm lying. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. So I'll read the back. It says, can you keep a secret? Ashland University might be teeming with the prestigious and wealthy students, but the currency on campus isn't their millions, it's their secret. And the 3 women living at Clarence Manor are filthy rich in lies and deceit. 2 of the roommates have played their game for years. Some will consider them masters of the ruse. The 3rd might be new to Ashton, but she's no stranger to secrets. Who is hiding the ugliest truths? We'll let you be the judge. Go ahead and whisper your confession in our ear. Promise not to tell. Oh my gosh. Now, This is a heavy book and it's a thick one, right? But if there's one thing you can take away, just please go buy this book. Like, it's I've never advocated for a book so hard until right now, but please y'all go check out this book. When I tell you I finished this book in I think 3 days, that's like a record for me. This book had me gripping to the edge of my seat. This book is a page turner, and let me get into why. So it follows 3 girls, Ivy, Eleanor, and Cassia. Ivy is like the Alison De Laurentiis of this book. Literally, she's Alison De Laurentiis, which I love. Eleanora is another fellow mean girl, but she's not like totally invested in Ivy like that. She's kind of living in her own world, right? And then the last girl, Cassia, is the new girl who, you know, moves to the campus and is their roommate. Now let's get into these characters a little bit more, okay? I rated this book so highly because of Ivy. Honestly, I couldn't really care about the other 2 girls. Like, if this book was just about Ivy, I would have given it a 5 out of 5 because her storyline was just so interesting and so good to me. And like the character development she goes through is actually good. You know how in Pretty Little Liars when Allie came back from the dead and they tried to make her like a victim so bad and like, she was just no longer a mean girl, and that redemption arc just fell flat. In this book, Ivy's redemption is actually very good because her backstory and like the reason why she acts the way she acts is the way you act is because it deals with family trauma, it deals with like traumatic accidents, a lot of twists and turns. She actively like decided to be a better person. She was like, I can't keep going on like this. Like, this way of life is not fulfilling at all. The thing about this book that really drove it home to like my all-time favorite list, the relationship between Ivy and Tate. When I tell you, Tate is absolutely the finest man I have ever read in a book. Nothing comes close to him. Now let me tell you why. Something about that man Tate is so fine. The way he was written is so perfect and so suave and so swaggy and so fine. I didn't write that, but anyways, I had the best picture of him in my head. I love a man that could practice some restraint because there are multiple times in this daggone book, Ivy was honestly a little bit desperate. She was just like, why don't you come over here? Why don't you make a move? Basically like, cause he was treating her like no boy has ever treated her before, and basically as if he wasn't like so obsessed with her, which like for reading a character like Ivy, like she was actually pulling out her hair, like could not wrap her mind around like why Tate is kind of doing like a push-pull type of thing. And that's because Tate's just that type of guy. Tate is a little bit older because he like kind of sensed who she was. Like he was able to tell her like it is. One thing I liked about him was that he walked around like he was that. Like he walked around like he was that guy. Just the air of confidence he had, like really had me going so crazy. And I would literally be screaming every time I was like, oh my gosh, like he's in this chapter. Like, oh my gosh, he's in this chapter. Also, it didn't like hurt that when I was reading this freaking book, I was watching Narcos Mexico for the first time. And something about the character that played Amado Carrillo Fuentes drove me crazy. And so when I was reading this book, I was imagining Tate as that actor, as that character. Y'all know how it is when you're reading a book and like in your head it's Henry Cavill, but like you don't care about what the description says, but in your head it's Henry Cavill. That's how I was imagining it to be that actor. And oh my gosh, I freaking love this book. They all had their own like interesting personalities and like character qualities and traits and whatnot. Elora, did I say Eleonora? I meant to say Elora. Her story is simply wrapped around Ivy's older brother, Zane. Think of it as she's literally Arya. Like she's not Arya, but her storyline just revolves around Ivy's older brother and a family secret. I knocked off a point because her story does become a little bit repetitive. Her and Zane is kind of a will they won't they type of deal, like because of the secret that she's kind of hiding. I'm not gonna spoil it, but Cassia, I gotta say, is the most boring character. Cassia's thing is also, she's coming to the school with a whole new identity. She basically ran away from her old life. And throughout her whole story, we're like trying to figure out why, what's going on, what is she running from? And the thing that she was actually running from is crazy. I mean, I don't know if I'm gonna spoil it, but let's just say it was like lackluster. Actually, I am gonna spoil it. She basically ran away from her old hometown because her well-known professor of a father was having an affair with his student, and that student was actually her boyfriend at the time. So it was just like a whole like double whammy. Like He's having an affair with a student. The student's also his daughter's boyfriend, and the affair that he had was with another boy. So like, it was just all those things kind of just gave them like a bad reputation. She left town. Oh, and then I think he offed himself afterwards. It's a lot. Next, I read Hopeless by Colleen Hoover. Trigger warning, Colleen Hoover alerts. Okay, now let me just tell you why. I had this on my bookshelf for like 4 years now, and I just never picked it up because the cover is freaking hideous. One thing about Colleen Hoover, I'm not gonna get into the controversies and all this drama surrounding her name. All I'm gonna say is Colleen Hoover, I think the best way I can describe her books is like a Lifetime movie. Now that could be either good or bad depending on what your preferences are. This book, a roller coaster of a movie right here. Like, this book went through, it started off so normal and then it went off the rails. It was actually really crazy, and I mean, but it was interesting, you know what I'm saying? So I gave this book a 3.5 out of 5. The first half of this book is very cliche and it's very chill. It's about a high schooler. She meets this boy who's kind of just like a little bit off-putting, like genuinely, he's a little bit weird. The second half of this book, it's the craziest, most dramatic soap opera plot you can ever think of, and it's plot twist after plot twist after plot twist. If you know Colleen Hoover, that's what she's kind of known for. She's like the plot twist girl, right? I just cannot believe I was reading the same book, because the same book that started off as a girl who's, you know, a small town girl turns into her finding out that she is a long lost daughter, and she got taken one day and she was kidnapped, and then we find out no, the mom didn't kidnap her. The mom is actually her aunt who rescued her from her abusive father. Like, this book actually needs trigger warnings. Like, I'm not the type of person to need trigger warnings, but like, oh my gosh, this book is actually insane for some of the stuff that goes down. All I can say is this book is the definition of trauma bonding. This book is the definition of trauma bonding. And I mean, it was a roller coaster to read. Would I read it again? No. The next book I read is This Summer I Turned Pretty. Now, I read this book because I watched the show. I'll give it a 2.5 out of 5. Definitely prefer the show because the show, I watched the show for Conrad. That's why I like the show more. Belly in this book, like, the show really doesn't give a true description of like who Belly is as a character, because in this book she's kind of like a mean girl. She's not a mean girl, but like the things that she be thinking, like you can definitely tell it's coming from like a 15-year-old girl, you know, like you can definitely tell she's not the most mature. And a lot of times I find it really, really funny because it's just like, girl, why are you talking like that? She would be like almost a little bit catty, but it's all in her head. Like, she would never like say this stuff out loud, you know what I'm saying? Just a teen girl trying to live her delulu life. She's just like me for real. She really just like Fourth book is Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. This was a cute read. It's cute, it's good, and then once you're done reading it, the flavor is kind of just gone from your mouth and you kind of forget about the book. So that's how I feel about this book. I gave this one a 3.5 out of 5. It's cute and it keeps you entertained for the most part. The spice is really good. And I will say, I wish it could have been about 150 pages shorter because it kind of does drag on for quite a bit. But I liked both of the main characters, which was like new because usually I don't. Girl Anastasia, she was very bearable and fun to read. One thing I did not like about this book, the epilogue. These daggone books, I feel like it happens a lot in sports books. They give us an epilogue and spoiler alert, she's pregnant. And that was genuinely so random and so jarring to read because she was supposed to be going to the Olympics and stuff like that. Like, she had like things going for her. 2 years later, she's pregnant. She didn't really care about being an Olympic skater and she's only 23 years old in the epilogue. So why make her pregnant? And then she only got as far as pre-Olympic gold medal. So that's it, basically career over. That's the only decision I had to really side-eye because I'm just like, why would y'all do that? Why would y'all do that to her? For an actual good read, okay? I read My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Ottessa. I don't know how to say her last name. This was the first book I read that was kind of out of the normal genres that I tend to go toward. This is I think like a contemporary psychological fiction. It takes place in the early 2000s. It's about a girl who basically, like, both of her parents die. One day she just decides to hibernate for a whole year. Her making a plan to find substances. It's a lot of substance abuse because how else would you go to sleep for an entire year? There's not a lot of like plots in this book. It's just her POV and in her head and how she thinks and stuff. A lot of people didn't like it because they think that the main character is a bitch. And that's the same reason I love this main character because it's not even that she was just mean to be mean though. Like, she wasn't like Ivy in the other book I just mentioned. At first it reads as, oh, she's just like a spoiled rich girl, doesn't want to work, nobody wants to get up and go to work these days. If you really peel back the layers, she's actually going through a lot of trauma, but it's very deep inside. So she's not really gonna like cry it out. I honestly thought she was gonna die by the end of this. Spoiler alert, she survived. When she like awoken from her year of hibernation, she came back a better person. Her outlook on life was just more positive, which is crazy. Fun fact about this book, she mentions Whoopi Goldberg like at least 10 times. Every time I read Whoopi Goldberg in this book, I laughed out loud because it's so random. She's disinterested in everything, but when Whoopi Goldberg came on the TV, she was locked in. So that's this book, and I think it's very cute and very pretty in pink. The next book I read was also a new genre for me. This book is like a romantic / crime / mystery thriller type of book. It's called The Perfect Marriage. Spoiler alert, it wasn't perfect. I gave this book 3 stars out of 5 as well. I'm gonna describe this book without spoiling it. Basically, one day, Sarah got a call from her husband, Adam, and Adam was like, oh my gosh, like there's a dead woman in my bedroom. The dead woman is the woman he was having an affair with. And he calls Sarah, like basically be my lawyer. And she, because that's her man and she gonna stick beside him, decides to represent him to figure out who killed his ex-lover, basically. I'm not gonna say anything more than that, but I will talk about the characters, okay? Adam Morgan is the biggest scum and the biggest egomaniacal loser with beans for brains of a character that I've ever read, okay? The things that he would do in this book is like he wanted to be found guilty. He went to prison for a bit, like in the middle of his trial, and he just decided to escape prison somehow. Like he would talk to reporters when she told him not to, and then he tried to kiss the reporter that he was trying to talk to, which is like, dude, you're already in court for your ex-mistress being dead, and now you're going to have another affair with the random reporter that you begged to help you out. And then he broke house arrest like constantly. It's just a lot of things he would do to like spit in his wife's face. And also on top of that, while Sarah was working day in and day out for his case, he would be like, so do you still love me? Like, so do you still want me? While yes, she is his lawyer, she is also his wife. And she has at least some respect for herself. So he'll be like, how come you're not touching me? How come you're pulling away from me? Does this mean you're gonna throw away my case? I'm just like, oh my gosh, he's so incredibly selfish, but that's The Perfect Marriage. Next book I have is Bad Girl Reputation by Elle Kennedy. I hate to say it, I could not finish this book. And I really hate to say that because I loved Good Girl Complex, which was the book before this, or the one I read before this, about his brother and a different girl. This book is about Evan and Genevieve, which is like his old flame. And they would always refer to Genevieve as like, oh, we don't talk about her. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, oh my gosh, what happened between them? Turns out it wasn't that interesting to find out because they are actually so insufferable to read. I said, I read like 60% of it and quit. I had to stop. Both of the main characters are so annoying and so immature. Like, grow the heck up. It was just too much of, oh my gosh, this is so bad. Oh my gosh, but it's so good. But oh my gosh, we can't do this. This is so bad. But oh my gosh, like this is so good. And it was just like not interesting. Their chemistry and dynamic wasn't strong enough for me to really get into it. So unfortunately, that's that book. Speaking of books that I could not bear, Priest by Sierra Simone, and I will not be reading anything else by her after reading this book because when I tell you, this is not the book that I thought I bought. Basically, this is not the book that I thought I was getting into. I thought this was going to be like a nuanced love story between a priest and this girl, and I thought that he would have to come to terms with, you know, his religion and his vows to the church versus how he feels about her. And I thought it would be like a think piece, if you will, you know? I gave it a 1.5 stars. Honestly, I should have given it just a 1 star. But I gave it a 1.5 because it just had so much potential in the beginning. And then when I realized it was taking a strong left turn, I was like, oh, I might have to throw this away. I said, let's just say this book did not meet my expectations in the sense that I didn't know it was going to be such a degenerate, carnal piece of literature. It was little to no nuance and lots and lots of porking involved. That's not really my taste. It's not really my style. That's not really my vibe. In the books that I try to read, it was just a lot of stuff going on. At the end, I think he left the church to be with her. Again, why would you do that? He actually needs to go to a rehab instead. I said that the main character, Tyler, is a literal fornication demon, and I don't like that. Maybe if you're a freak-a-leak, if you're a real freak-a-leak, then this book is for you. But it was just too much. It was just too much. It was just too much. It was too much for me. On a happier and more positive note, the next book I read was A Shot in the Dark by Victoria Lee. I gave this book a 3 out of 5 stars. It's a quick, cute read. I got it at Barnes & Noble's because I really liked the cover. It got me out of a 5-month reading slump, so I feel like that says a lot, you know? This girl, she comes back to New York after a decade of being missing in action and 4 years of being sober to study photography on a scholarship. But she's not like a student, but she's just there for the photography class. And the class is being taught by this big, famous, well-known photographer. And surprise, surprise, the random guy that she meets at the bar is the famous guest teacher. Wyatt, who is the male protagonist, is such a normal and realistic human being. And the fact that I have to like say that it's like a plus in a book is wild to me, but like he actually is just an enjoyable guy to read about. Wyatt is also a trans man in the book, so this is like the first book I've read where we have a character like that. They kind of both dealt with substance abuse in their own ways, so it was really cute. It was really cute and like really wholesome, so I love this book. The next book I read is The Right Move by Liz Tomford. I think this book is the cutest thing ever. I think this is such like a well-written book. It's a well-rounded book with well-rounded characters. I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars. If you're looking for a book about a guy who's basically the perfect book boyfriend you can imagine, it's this man right here. His name is Ryan Shea. He is the captain of an NBA team. The girl's name is Indy. Basically, it's like I don't have anywhere to stay, and they kind of have to like learn how to live together. Definitely polar opposite personalities, but I will not say it's grumpy sunshine, which I really do love and appreciate. I am so sick and tired of reading about grumpy sunshine relationships. She is definitely more like a positive, happy person, but I wouldn't necessarily say he's grumpy. He just, you know, is used to living alone and very kind of like set in his ways, isn't too extroverted, stuff like that. A solid main character that I really don't have any complaints about. In the beginning, like I feel like she's coded to kind of be like that annoying sunshine type of girl, but no, it was great. It was really great and I enjoyed it. I have to say Ryan Shea is a genuinely good person and like a nice male main character to read about. It's so refreshing. He's in tune with his emotions, he's logical, but he's like still aware of his own like insecurities and his fears to the point where it's not so annoying to read about. You know, when you're reading about a character who just doesn't know how to process anything by themselves, yeah, this isn't him. Some of the things he would do that I would say classify him as like the best book boyfriend I've ever read is when they were like a little bit on their off moment, she left him to go stay with a friend, and then he packed a bag, like an overnight bag for her, and dropped it off at that friend's house, but like didn't even like beg or demand that she comes back. You know what I'm saying? Like he gave her that space. He was like, hey, I just want to make sure you're comfortable. I'm gonna give you a bag and I'm just gonna leave you for the night. And then the next morning, guess what? He was sleeping in his car waiting for her. He was sleeping in his car waiting for her. Are you kidding me? Don't make me cry right now. And the last thing I'll say about this book is the chemistry is off the freaking walls, or I should say off the pages. I will say there's like a part in here that's like, it goes for 3 chapters and it's like the craziest thing. It's crazy, but it's also like just so good. I just feel like when you write nice, normal characters with good chemistry and good banter, when you finally get to that point where the relationship develops into, you know, the physical side, it was just beautiful. That's all I can say. That's the best I could describe it. It was just beautiful to read. Yeah, all I gotta say is praise. All I gotta say is praise. All I gotta say is praise, and then I'm gonna move on to the next book, okay? The next book I read was First Position. It takes place in the ballet world. It's about a ballerina, and one thing about me, I love like any ballerina type of movie, TV show, and it's the first book I read of that, and it was just so juicy, and the drama in this book, yeah. I gave it 4.3 stars out of 5, which is like crazy because I did not expect it to be as good as it was. I said this book did not disappoint. It was scandalous. The drama was perfect and it was such a well-rounded story. I love the dual POV from the main character, who is Sylvie, and the kind of other main character, Jocelyn. Best ballerina friends, and then something happened, a common denominator being a man, but this man is actually insane, and then their relationship kind of falls apart because of this man that they had a commonality relationship with named Sebastian. Now Sebastian is a creep, Sebastian is a weirdo, Sebastian is like kind of a menace in this book. Sebastian is 40 freaking years old. Sebastian is 40 years old and messing with 18-year-olds, and it was like very jarring. It's not like this book framed it as a romantic relationship. Like, we all know that Sebastian wasn't in love with this girl. He was just trying to get his little two-piece, you know what I'm saying? I said how I like how there wasn't a lot of emphasis on the love interests, specifically like the romantic relationships. There wasn't a lot of emphasis on that, and they're more so just exploring the personal lives of the girls individually, which I love because, like I said, the ballet world is so juicy to me. Also in this book, there's time jump, and one thing about me, I love a book with a good time skip, or if it's going like back and forth to give us some context of the past. So this book has a lot of that. It was good. I feel like I would reread it one day. Finally, we're at the end. The last book I read is Twisted Love. I'm conflicted about this book. I'm real conflicted. I gave this book, I wrote down a low 3, but I feel like this book is really a 2 out of 5 stars. No, I'm gonna give it a low 3. I don't know, I don't like giving books 2 stars. I don't know what it is. This book is like kind of the definition of cringe male main character to me. I'm gonna just read the back. Alex is a devil blessed with the face of an angel, cursed with a past that he cannot escape. Driven by a tragedy that has haunted him for most of his life, his ruthless pursuits for success and vengeance leave him little room for matters of the heart until he meets Ava, basically. Ava is a free-spirited, and I'm just gonna leave it at that because I didn't like any of them. Like, I didn't hate them, but I also wasn't crazy about them. Ava is such like a stereotypical, bubbly, happy, joyous main character. But for me, it gets to the point where it's annoying because it reads as if she's just very like young and naive and childlike. And then Alex has no emotion. He's so monotone. He's so robotic. Like, he literally just talks about like, I'm the epitome of darkness and my cold, dead heart, blah, blah, blah. Cry me a river, woe is me. Oh, I'm having feelings for this girl, what's going on? And then he'll be like, but I'm so dark, I live in the shadows, my heart is dead. And it's like, get over yourself. Like, what's going on? Literally, what is going on right now? Why are we talking like this? Because this is not how normal people speak. Like, what's going on? When we get glimpses of some developments happen in their relationship, he really put her hand on his chest and was like, it's cold, it's not beating, there's nothing there. I'm just like, am I watching a Lifetime movie right now? What is going on? Like, I don't want to say this as an insult, but if I didn't know any better, I would think this is a Colleen Hoover book, because there's a whole nother side plot of him like being a hitman or something like that, killing his uncle or something. I don't even know the plot, but like, she got kidnapped somewhere along the way. Apparently he killed somebody, but it happened off the freaking page. And that's one thing that pisses me off more than anything else, because if you're gonna have like a morally gray mailman character, if you're gonna have a bad guy who's like unapologetically a bad guy, if you're gonna have a guy who dips his toe into the crime world, put that in writing. I want to read about it. Don't just have him come in the next chapter cleaning blood off of his knuckles like nothing happened. Because I'm like, what happened? And that's another complaint I have with this book. It does a lot of telling and not a lot of showing. The ending really just made me like roll my eyes at this freaking book, because there was the whole 3rd act breakup, right? She moved across the country. Tell me why this psychotic man followed her all the way across the country and was like, you don't have to choose me. You don't have to be with me. I'm gonna be here. I'm gonna apologize every day, but just know you cannot ever get rid of me. And I'm just like, girl, get a restraining order on him. Like, you don't have to be in this predicament. At the end of the book, he's like buying her roses and jewelry and designer stuff, and she keeps like sending it back to sender. And I'm just like, girl, if you don't keep those flowers. Like, one thing about me, if you give me something, I'll keep it. That don't mean I'm taking you back, but I'll keep it. But whatever. Of course, at the end, spoiler alert, she took him back, because why wouldn't she? But I said if I could change the ending, would rewrite it to where when he was trying to win her back, I would do time jumps. They got back together so quickly, I think in the span of like a few months. And I didn't like that, because he was just so like aggressive and domineering about it. Like, it was just too much. And I would make him show an actual change in behavior. Because one thing about his book, Alex starts off the same and he ends the same exact way at the end of the book. He doesn't change. There's no growth. There is no growth. Oh my gosh, if there's one thing that pisses me off, is no growth in a mailman character. How are you trying to win her back after her getting kidnapped and traumatized and her heart broken? And at the end of the book, you're like the same exact despicable human being you were in the beginning. How was that possible? How is that possible? Because in the end, he made like a grand declaration of love. He sung her a song in front of like this little art gallery, and it moved her to tears. And I'm just like, okay, girl, whatever. Like, his voice is not that good. What is he, Harry Styles? They got back together, right? Her friend was there, and he was all like, who's this? Leave her alone. Go somewhere else, mister. And I'm just like, why are you being so possessive? Like, isn't this one of the reasons she was sick of you in the first place? Like, did we learn nothing? Is this all just for show? Because that's what it's coming off as. It's coming off as, I want what's mine. And honestly, that's really what it is, because he literally says that multiple times throughout the whole entire book. He literally says, you're still mine. You're never not gonna be mine. I don't care how long it takes. You're always mine. And I'm just like, mine, 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 mine. So much possessiveness. Let's flip the script a little bit, because honestly, that tiniest change of, instead of him being like, you're mine, if he was like, I'm yours, that would have made a world of a difference. Like, I would have probably forgiven a lot of foolishness going on in this book, is if his confession at the end sounded genuine and like from a place of love and not from just a place of wanting to own her, essentially. It was not charming, it was not sweet, it was not poetic, it was just uncomfortable. Like, that's literally what it was uncomfortable. I didn't read the epilogue. I learned my lesson from that last book, Icebreaker, where I read the epilogue and found out she was pregnant. So in this book, I was so displeased with the ending, I didn't even want to touch the epilogue. But oh my gosh, I've been talking for forever. My camera has died twice, and that is the end of the video finally. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you really liked it, go ahead and subscribe. Yeah, that's it, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye! I'm like having technical difficulties. It's like this video does not want me to talk about this daggone book, but and now my battery's getting low. What the oh my gosh, I'm about to crash out. I'm literally about to crash out.